Red Bull's secret has just been exposed and it could cost Max Verstappen everything in 2026. The FIA uncovered evidence that puts their entire 2025 test program under scrutiny, and now Verstappen's future with Red Bull is hanging by a thread. What they found wasn't just a technical error, it may be a breach of the new 2026 compliance protocol, and the penalties could shake up the entire grid. If you want the full truth on the FIA's leaked data, Red Bull's internal reaction, and what Verstappen is saying behind closed doors, hit subscribe right now before this story gets buried. Max Verstappen's 2026 campaign may have just hit a wall, and not because of lap times or rival upgrades. The FIA has revealed newly surfaced technical data that directly challenges Red Bull's developmental approach during the 2025 season. The documents, first reviewed behind closed doors, are now raising serious compliance concerns about the RB20 test configurations, and their potential conflict with the incoming 2026 regulations. This isn't speculation, it's a formal technical review, and Red Bull is at the center of it. To understand the gravity of this, you have to realize how dominant Red Bull has been under the current formula. With Verstappen shattering records, the Milton Keynes outfit pushed the boundaries of what's possible both technically and politically. But the 2026 regulation shift is unlike anything in recent history. New power unit architecture, revised aero profiles, and strict energy deployment limits have reset the playing field. Any legacy advantage from 2025 testing is now under extreme scrutiny, especially if it was gained outside the intended framework. At the heart of the controversy is a specific powertrain mapping system that Red Bull reportedly trialed late in 2025. According to the FIA's internal data, the team may have used a hybrid calibration not fully disclosed in their simulation reports, one that offered performance insight far beyond what other teams had access to. On paper, it may not constitute a clear rule break. But with 2026 compliance structures already in place, the use of unverified mappings could invalidate critical portions of Red Bull's prep work. That's where the risk begins. Because if the FIA determines that Red Bull's preseason simulations relied on non-compliant architecture, the data could be disqualified, which means the entire RB21 concept could be compromised. This would force the team to reverse engineer massive portions of their development cycle, with just months left before final homologation. It's not just a technical reset. It's a psychological one. And for a team that thrives on long-term control, that's a nightmare scenario. Inside the paddock, rival teams have wasted no time responding. Both Mercedes and Ferrari have already submitted follow-up inquiries to the FIA, requesting clarification on what Red Bull's test parameters included and whether special allowances were made. While no formal protest has been filed yet, multiple senior figures have privately admitted they're preparing cases if further irregularities are confirmed. This isn't politics for the sake of drama, it's an open power struggle at the highest level of Formula One engineering. And then there's Verstappen. The three-time world champion has not commented publicly on the FIA's findings, but sources close to the team confirm he's been deeply involved in emergency briefings with Adrian Newey and the engine division. Verstappen is obsessed with preparation. If his 2026 title campaign starts with compromised data or a handicap design, it could trigger a cascade of pressure, especially if Red Bull cannot guarantee compliance under the new electrical deployment thresholds. The tension is real, and the silence from Red Bull's management says everything. This is a team known for boldness, yet now they're cautious, controlled, and internally focused. That shift in posture is the biggest red flag of all. When Red Bull goes quiet, something serious is happening behind the scenes. And this time, it's not just about lap time. It's about survival under a rulebook they helped push the limits of and which may now be turning against them. At the center of this controversy lies a highly specific issue: Red Bull's use of a variable hybrid deployment protocol that reportedly operated outside of standard validation cycles during late 2025 testing. This protocol, according to internal FIA documents, allowed Red Bull to simulate certain 2026 energy recovery behaviors that weren't yet covered under the formal compliance windows. In plain English, they were testing 2026 scenarios using configurations that hadn't been cleared through official regulatory software. On the surface, that might not sound dramatic. But in the current regulatory climate, it's significant. The FIA's 2026 technical framework is not just about final car specifications, it governs every step of development leading up to homologation. Simulation environments, dyno setups, energy recovery mappings, and even hybrid deployment simulations must now pass through compliance filters. If a team gathers data outside of those filters, that data can be ruled inadmissible. Red Bull, if the allegations hold, may have built part of their 2026 philosophy on invalid information. Sources suggest that the FIA's investigation began quietly, triggered by inconsistencies between Red Bull's 2025 wind tunnel reports and their trackside deployment profiles. While no team had visual access to Red Bull's code, timing sheets and GPS overlays revealed anomalies. Verstappen was reportedly able to extract consistent energy boosts across multiple stints in ways that didn't match known hybrid power delivery limits. That data didn't go unnoticed, especially by Mercedes engineers, who flagged it during private sessions with FIA delegates. The FIA then cross-referenced Red Bull's test data with internal control software and found gaps. Not in the power figures themselves, but in how Red Bull submitted their calibration files. These files, required by the FIA's Technical Directive 18-25, must reflect real-time hybrid deployment during all closed test environments. Red Bull's submissions allegedly used placeholder data or incomplete mapping sets. That could be enough for the FIA to question whether those simulations breached protocol. This is why the consequences go far beyond a fine or reprimand. If a team's developmental trajectory is based on simulations that the FIA does not recognize, then the conclusions drawn from that data on cooling efficiency, battery weight distribution, or ERS harvesting under liftoff are now suspect. Red Bull may have committed to a 2026 design that's structurally built on flawed logic. And when the cost cap restricts redesign, that's more than a problem. It's a time bomb. The risk is that Red Bull will now be forced to revalidate core concepts under stricter oversight. That process is slow, resource-heavy, and politically delicate, especially when 2026 aerodynamic testing windows are already narrowing. It's not just about engines or software. It's about delay. And in Formula One, delay is deadly. One lost month in CFD or dyno development could mean falling a full season behind. And looming over it all is Verstappen. He's no stranger to controversy, but he's also never entered a season with this much uncertainty. If Red Bull's data is invalidated, he could be forced to drive a 2026 car based on incomplete feedback, compromised energy recovery balance, or worst case a total redesign. For a driver used to precision, dominance, and predictability, that's unacceptable. And for a team fighting to hold onto him through 2028, it could be catastrophic. Inside Red Bull Racing, the atmosphere has shifted from confidence to calculation. The engineering department, long considered the sharpest in the paddock, is now operating under a layer of legal and regulatory review they didn't expect this early. According to internal sources, what was once a fluid, aggressive development timeline for 2026 has slowed down considerably. Every test result, every CAD model, every deployment map now has to be double-checked not just for performance, but for compliance. Adrian Newey, the team's design chief and technical talisman, has reportedly taken personal control of the situation. Known for his intolerance toward external interference, Newey is said to be coordinating with both the power unit team and legal advisors to assess exactly how exposed Red Bull is. While he's been through regulation transitions before, 2026 is different. The hybrid complexity, combined with software traceability requirements, means there's no room for ambiguity. For once, genius alone may not be enough. On Verstappen's side, the response has been measured but intense. The Dutch driver has not spoken publicly, but he has been fully briefed on the FIA investigation and is monitoring it closely. Those inside the team describe him as calm, but firm. Verstappen reportedly demanded a complete review of the 2026 concept plan with particular emphasis on how power deployment simulations will evolve under the new regulatory weight limits. He knows where titles are won, in winter data, not just Sunday afternoons. But Verstappen's patience is not unlimited. He is, at his core, a driver obsessed with control of his machinery, of the environment, and of the championship trajectory. If Red Bull cannot provide a stable roadmap to recover or validate their development direction, there is growing concern that he could trigger performance clauses in his contract. While no formal exit discussions have taken place, multiple paddock insiders believe this is now an active scenario being modeled not by the press, but by rival teams. The internal mood at Red Bull has also become more political. Engineers are said to be divided on how to proceed. One camp believes they should disclose everything to the FIA preemptively, fully reset the simulation pipeline, and move forward clean. Another camp argues for minimal correction, betting on the FIA's limited capacity to enforce retroactive penalties at full scale. This internal fracture, while still quiet, reflects deeper philosophical tensions, and for a team as dominant as Red Bull, that's dangerous. Compounding the pressure is the looming arrival of new sponsors tied to the 2026 rebrand. Red Bull is preparing not just a car, but a commercial overhaul with fresh branding, expanded energy partner integration, and a push into emerging electric tech markets. Any perception of instability could damage those deals. In this sense, the FIA findings don't just threaten a technical setback. They threaten the narrative Red Bull has spent years building, that they are the future, and the others are chasing shadows. All of this places Verstappen in a precarious spot. On one hand, he's loyal to the team that gave him a platform and helped him dominate the hybrid era. On the other, he's a driver entering his peak, with limited tolerance for misfires and wasted seasons. If Red Bull cannot convince him and the FIA that the 2026 program is recoverable and fully legal, then the real race won't be on track. It'll be in the boardrooms, where contracts, clauses, and credibility will decide who controls the next era of Formula One.